Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Perspective. Of course, the security situation between Pakistan and Afghanistan remains fragile. We'll be talking about the security developments, of course, the cabinet meeting and as far as the Indian nexus with Afghan Taliban that has been exposed affirmatively around the world. And of course, Pakistan's commitment to ensure that its borders remain safe on all accounts. We'll be talking about, the upcoming developments even as we speak, of course, the involvement of China and other regional powers in trying to ensure that the situation remains safe and the intervention from the international quarters. All of that today on Perspective. I have with me Dr.Muhammad Ali Hamza, who's a foreign affairs expert. Thank you for being with us today. We also have with us Tahir Khan, who's an expert on Afghan affairs. Thank you for joining us. Dr. Hamza, as far as the situation at this time is concerned, of course, our resolve stands firm, our commitment to peace also, and that said, we've been taking into account the civilians across the border, the long-standing relationship between Pakistan and Afghanistan. But at this time, the policy earlier on, how do you evaluate it? How do you look at it in terms of our relationship in the past and where we are now, and of course what is now seen as a change?
Thank you for having me, Mahrukh. As you talk about people-to-people relations, so I think they were strong, they are still strong. And now TTA, that is Tehrik-e-Taliban Afghanistan, they are probably playing upon that strong relationship between people of Pakistan and Afghanistan. Now, whatever the changes took place in last 3-4 days, that's very unfortunate. Unfortunate on the basis because Pakistan and Afghanistan enjoyed long-term relations, and those were not only bilateral relations, it was kind of ethnic relation, there was a religious relation. So now things are open. When the Tahir was in India, so how things are happening. So it is unfortunate. But whatever is happening, one has to understand that what was Doha Agreement. And Doha Agreement that was that Afghanistan territory, the Afghan territory won't be used for any attacks to its neighboring countries. And that was the promise made by the Taliban when they took over. And this is now the violation. And it's not something that it just happened and Pakistan just...
I want to come to that because, of course, like you said, that Doha Agreement is very much there. It's very much been a part of our, our relationship with Afghanistan, with the Afghan government. But the violations, the way that the Taliban have always treated the Doha Agreement, and whereas, there has been a certain latitude given by the Pakistani government, when of course, we could have, of course, retaliated much earlier. And that, do you think is resonating in Kabul?
If it was resonating, so they should have come forward to a long-term peace truce. And so far, the 48 hours truce is gone, and we don't see any initiative from that side. Now, you're absolutely right that Pakistan could retaliate, but Pakistan was making them realize that please stop things at your end. Don't force us to take the control of our borders. Then we have to, what other options we do have. But this entire scenario also opens up one another situation, and I would call a tragedy for TTA. That TTA, its control and writ over the territory of Afghanistan is also challenged. Maybe, that's kind of a view that they are unable to stop TTP or Fitnatul Khawarij or Daesh or other militant groups because they understand that if they just make them their own enemy, they cannot control Afghanistan. So I think, they are in the tragedy as well, and that's the reason. That's the reason the Pakistan government offered them assistance. That okay, you just open up things. If you just say that okay, it's out of our control, we will come and assist you.
But that inability, or we've been grappling with the question of inability versus, not wanting to do it, or the insincerity of the Taliban at that time. I'll come to that. We also have with us Tahir Khan, who's an expert on Afghan affairs. Tahir Saab, can you hear me?
Yes.
We've been talking about the situation, as it develops between Pakistan and Afghanistan, and of course, whether the Taliban, insincerity or the inefficiency that we've seen from across the border. But the question is the nexus as far as India is concerned. when we look at what's happening, when we look at the press conference that happened, when we look at, the exposure of it, because of course Pakistan has been saying that it's there for a long time now. We've been talking about it, we've been, telling the international community about it, there are dossiers on it. As far as that situation is concerned now, how do you look at that nexus as the world sees it?
Thank you. I think this is up to the Afghan, the Taliban leadership to assess the Pakistan role when they took over in 2021 in August. Pakistan was the first country to convene a special meeting of the foreign minister of the Islamic countries in Islamabad. Pakistan was the first country to make 6 neighboring countries group, and Pakistan was the first country to hand over the Afghan embassy to the Taliban, first country. And there are many things. Pakistan was almost an advocate for the Taliban new government. And Pakistan has warned when Pakistan sent a delegation in September 2021. In fact, their delegation also warned the Taliban that time. And I think that concern was that concern is now proved to be correct today. And now they should think. Pakistan embassy, Pakistan 4 consulates were opened when the Taliban entered Kabul. India had closed its embassy. India had closed all 4 consulates when Pakistani's old diplomatic mission were opened. And Pakistan had thousands of people who wanted to leave Afghanistan. So these
really,
few things.
So the consideration for the Afghan people consistently, when we look at the policy, do you think that, the background has been, of course, the consideration for the Afghan people? Because, of course, there is, like you said, a long-standing relationship between the Afghan people and the Pakistani people. When we look at where the placement, when we look at, the territorial considerations with regard to this. And that has prompted, to a large extent, the latitude that the Pakistani government extended toward the Afghan government.
Pakistan has showed a lot of patience in over the past 4 years. And Pakistan is the only country in this region that which loses soldiers daily. Even today, there was a very big attack on Pakistani forces in North Waziristan. And we have lost almost 7 soldiers were martyred today. And there were over 1 dozen, they are injured. So and quickly one group claimed responsibility, and Pakistan say these all groups are operating from Afghan soil. So this is in fact a message to the Taliban authorities, Afghan government, that Pakistan concerns are genuine. And one thing I want to mention, because you were spoken about the region and the international community. Yes. We will keep Pakistan away for a while. We will not, what Pakistan has been telling the Taliban government over the past 4 years. Look at the United Nations report about Afghanistan, about these groups. And look at all joint statements issued by the even regional groups or internationally. Just go to Moscow, and before the Moscow format meeting, there was Russia, China, Pakistan, and Iran special envoys meeting. And you can read the statement. The statement mentioned these groups: TTP, Ben TTP, BLA, Majid Brigade, ETIM, Uzbekistan Islamic Movement, all these groups. So it is not Pakistan. Now the whole region and the international community are telling them to act. So the problem is about the people. You also mentioned the people. Hamid Karzai, the former president, will always have some complaints about Pakistan, and we also had complaints about his administration. But he would always say that Pakistan and Afghanistan are co-joint twins. So it means you cannot separate both countries and both people of the 2 countries. And this may be Pakistan may be the only country which hosted Afghan refugees who are our brother or sister for over the past 50 years. And they should know Pakistan embassy is issuing almost 1,000 visas daily. And we are happy. We are happy that if they want to come to Pakistan on visa and passport for education, for treatment, for businesses, for tourism, and there are many intermarriages. So
But
we are happy.
But Tarsab, do you think now, let me come back to you. I mean, of course, you know that you're right, there has been a long relationship. There has been a lot of facilitation from the Pakistani side. I think that, you know, that nobody around the world would deny that. On that point, I'll come back to you. I'm going to go to Dr. Hamza here. Dr. Hamza, you know, moving on from there, in terms of what's happened now with regard to India, you know, we have been saying for a while that we have dossiers, we have presented them also. We've been saying that, look, Afghan territory is being used to perpetrate terrorism. And like, you know, Tahir Saab also said, our soldiers, our people are being killed, martyred every day. In terms of what's happening now, after, of course, the cabinet meeting also, how do you see the shift, the change in the policy? Also the fact that, you know, like it was said in the DGISPR press conference, everything cannot be resolved with talks. And this is one of those things that is, unfortunately, and of course, I'm sure that, you know, it pains all Pakistanis to say so, not been resolved with talks.
Absolutely, yeah, that's very true. There is always a limit to talks, and if the other party is not willing and is not accepting the talks, so you have to take the next step. And we have to salute all the martyrs who are saving our borders, and due to those soldiers, we sleep nicely in our homes. So our soldiers and our civilians, their blood is not there to just give away. We have, in the war against terror, we have already lost 80,000 people. That's a huge amount. And if we look into the economic aspect, billions of dollars we have lost. So whatever happened, we were happy that Taliban were back, there was peace, and we were providing them dossiers, but their response was somehow showcased and represented them that they don't trust our dossiers.
But they seem to be, you know, in terms of, and what's happening now, if you look at what Tahir Saab said, you know, Pakistan of course stands vindicated in its stance that, you know, it has done what it could with regard to the Afghan Taliban.
Yeah.
And of course, you know, in a lot of cases, the international community has been asking us to act also when we look at the recent past.
Yes.
But moving on from there, when we look at the Indian nexus at this time, do you think that, you know, it is being done to perpetrate this hostile agenda that's coming now from both the eastern and western borders?
There is no doubt about it. What's left? Because India has lost its ground in Iran, Chabahar. It has lost its ground 6-0 in the war. He has come up with the Sindoor operation, which was dealt very nicely with the Banyan Marsus. So what left for India? China is not supporting, Russia is not actually getting itself involved into this all. So all the stakes, the Indian stakes are now linked with Afghanistan. It was a call for sensibility for Afghan leadership to choose partners and friends sensibly. One thing
which they have not done. They seem to have gone across the border and chosen friends.
Exactly, and that apparently and definitely, I will say, that's not a good choice. Now, why? Because if it's been realized or it's been said many a times, I think we need to debunk this myth as well that Afghan land or territory has never been occupied by foreign territory. What are we talking about? Mughal empires, 200 years they were in Afghan. We talk about Persian empires, Afridis and other. They were. USSR was in the territory. USA was in the territory. So, so that claim is absolutely false. So if they believe that nobody can control us, that's wrong. Secondly, if Afghan leadership believe that they are warriors, might be in the times of swords and arrows they could come up with this point of view. But with the modern weaponry, didn't they notice what happened to the Rafales in India? What
Do you
happened
think there's some illusion there? There
is an absolute illusion.
Under an illusionary.
They number one, they are under this illusion that nobody can control or foreign bodies cannot handle us. What are you talking about? What is in Afghanistan? Nothing. I mean, they have no system, they have no governance, their education system has been bluntly distorted, their economy is in the shackles. So what are they talking about? They are already nothing. In this case, Pakistan was the only country and still is the only country that can help Taliban to rebuild and redevelop. They should recall and remember the history a couple of decades back when 4 million Afghans were actually taken care by the Pakistani government.
So that history is certainly there. Let me come back to you on this. We have with us Tahir Sahab also. Tahir Sahab, we've been talking about the history and what, of course, the relationship between Pakistan and Afghanistan. But the Taliban at this time and the fact that, there seems to be this illusion and in their illusionary capacity, whether it has been fueled by what's happening across the border, the nexus between India or Afghanistan, there's little doubt on that. But in terms of moving forward, when we look at interventions, we know that China, wasn't successful before in trying to bridge these tensions. Do you think it will be successful now?
I will briefly say something about China role, because China started this role since 2017. I still remember there was a huge truck blast in Kabul near the German embassy, and there were a lot of casualties. So there was a tension after that incident. Chinese foreign minister, the current foreign minister, he went to Kabul, then he came here, and then Pakistan and China also form a trilateral. This trilateral started in 2017. And Pakistan wanted to have good relations with the previous governments despite the war there. And also Afghan government. I told you Pakistan was like an advocate for the, and sometime I would see some social media posts and the people would be criticizing that why it has always been supporting the Afghan Taliban, because people would be mentioning the women issue, the women education, human rights, media ban, all these things. But Pakistan was not. Even Pakistan was didn't stop the asking the Taliban to have broad-based government, although every country is asking them. Now, China, yes, China wants good relation, but I have heard from the Pakistanis in Islamabad that now China and other regional countries, they are now agreed with what Pakistan has been saying since long. Because Pakistan, I told you, there is no security issue in China. There is no security problem in Uzbekistan. There is no security problem in Tajikistan. There is no security issue in any other country like Pakistan. And this was the China main concern, that you should solve this problem. China is also sharing its concern with the Taliban leadership in Kabul and sometime in Beijing. But our concerns are very, very, as I said, very genuine, because the situation in the KP province, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Balochistan are very. So China has been trying. But
right. Moving on from China, Tariq Sahab, we also want to come to, like you mentioned, KP, and of course we saw the cabinet meeting that was chaired by the Prime Minister today, with the notable exception of CM KP. In these circumstances, for that to happen, and of course we know that in the recent past, we've also seen this growing concern about the stance that all provinces have to be on one page with regard to this policy. How do you look at this development, and how do you look at our own narrative, the way that it has to be shaped at this time, and the unity that we need at this time to move forward against the Taliban?
Yes, I would say a few things. This is very valid question. One thing that, yes, there was a representation from the KP government, but not the chief minister. And I saw a tweet from the new KP chief minister that he did not attend because he first wanted to meet Imran Khan and ask him what to do. I think you are right that the center, the federal government, and the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa government, and all provincial government in the whole country should be on one page on this issue. I would not completely blame the KP government. I will also mention the federal government attitude. Sometime, unfortunately, our federal ministers are issuing very, very I would say, objectionable and irresponsible step.
Tariq Sahab, that said, when you are, of course, we are dealing with internally, of course, we cannot have.
Please hold on.
Ji,
I
please
am
continue.
saying terrorism, militancy, it is a national issue. It is not the issue of the KP province, not the issue of Balochistan, and this is everyone must realize that yes, we are a democratic country. We should do politics, but there are many issues for politics. Don't do politics on terrorism. Don't do politics on these things. If we do this, we will be sending very wrong message to the whole country. That the people would say Pakistan is suffering a lot due to this problem, but we are fighting even on this issue. So that's why the KP chief minister must attend this meeting today because he was invited. And the prime minister has a good gesture. He called him when he was elected, despite some problem between the federal government and the KP government. So he must be in Islamabad in this meeting.
Right, fair enough. Let me go to Sardar Masood Khan. He's also former ambassador, seasoned diplomat. Thank you for joining us. Sardar Sahab, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
So that's of course this situation at this time, and we're talking about the fact that we need national cohesion, we need national unity. This cabinet meeting with the KP CM being absent at this time and moving towards a narrative. When we look at narrative building, do you think that we need to make more efforts? Pakistan internally needs to make more efforts while our our army, our security forces are valiantly fighting on the borders. We need to ensure that there remains a cohesive national narrative inside Pakistan. Do you think, and how do we go about building that, in your opinion?
Well, I would say that we have a cohesive national narrative about terrorism. We've been countering terrorism for decades, and we have succeeded in countering terrorism. But that was during the war on terror. After the war on terror, Pakistan was subjected to terrorism from Afghan soil. And the patronage of the Afghan government has created the situation. Although the Afghan government, Afghan Taliban, as a matter of fact, in Doha, when they were negotiating terms for peace and transition with the Trump administration at that time, they had promised not only to the United States, but to other countries in the neighborhood that they would not let the soil of Afghanistan be used by terrorists. But we have seen this spike in terrorism, primarily targeting Pakistan. You also brought in the theme of national unity or unanimity on this subject. And I think that, yes, absolutely, it should be there, and there should be no erosion, because most of the people who've been killed in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa or Balochistan, they were either security personnel or they were civilians. They were civilians were targeted randomly by these terrorist organizations, mainly by Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan, under the tutelage, I would say, of the Afghan Taliban. Afghan Taliban, of course, deny that they give any kind of support to Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan, but the evidence on the ground suggests that they either give them logistical support or they look the other way when it comes to supporting these terrorist attacks. Another element which is very, very sinister, that Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan, and Pakistan has evidence to substantiate this fact, that they are being supported by India, India's intelligence agency.
I want to come to that. So, Sardar Sahab, I want to move on to talk about that. particular aspect in terms of, what India is doing, the nexus between the Afghan Taliban and the Indian state that has been irrevocably exposed now, the way that the press conference, the way that we've seen the recent also. Now that, the world has seen it, in terms of India and its attempts, we saw what happened post Pahalgam also. We're looking at what's happening now. Do you think, this is also a design to, of course, corner Pakistan when we look at, the eastern and the western borders? And when it was being done clandestinely, and now it's being done quite openly. So this attempt itself, in terms of how the international community is looking at it and the way that it is being condemned overall, how do you look at the international framework at this time? Do you think it is being propelled by what's happening with Pakistan and its international image at this time? What do you think is behind it?
You said it all, but let me add that the collusion between Afghanistan and India cannot corner Pakistan, because Pakistan is now very comfortably on the world stage diplomatically, and it is respected, applauded, received, welcomed, hosted in world capitals, including Washington, New York, Sharm el-Sheikh, Beijing, you name any capital in Pakistan has been there. Central Asia, all our neighbors, the Gulf region. So Pakistan is not isolated. India had unsuccessfully tried to isolate Pakistan, but Pakistan has bounced back, so to say, diplomatically. Yes, it is one of the factors, because this is hurting India, and India is using Afghanistan as a proxy, and Afghanistan's soil is being used to prime these proxies, Indian-backed proxies, to attack Pakistani civilians and security personnel. So this is a factor, but Pakistan has 4 or 5 courses of action available to it. One is, of course, bilateral dialogue with the Afghan government. Second is that third-party mediation. This is happening, Doha talks, and Pakistan would participate in them. Then, of course, we have other well-wishers like China and Iran and Saudi Arabia who want an end to hostilities between Pakistan and Saudi Arabia. And the third is that we must be prepared militarily. If there is attack on Pakistani soil, if our civilians and military personnel are being killed, we will retaliate and we will defeat these networks definitively.
We spoke about this before you joined us, but I'd like your opinion on this also. When we look at the situation, do you think that this is being, what is happening, the Talibans are under some kind of an illusion in terms of the capacity that Pakistan has? And, we saw what happened in Pahalgam. I keep, bringing that up because there's certainly an equation here. When we look at what's happening, because, India, of course, clearly underestimated the situation, was overestimating its own powers against a country like Pakistan. Do you think that that is what's fueling what's happening as far as the Taliban is concerned in this attempt by them to this adventurism that we see on the border?
2 factors. One is that they think that ideologically Pakistan should align itself with the extremist version of Sharia that Afghan Taliban propagate. And Pakistan cannot do that because Pakistan is a liberal democracy and Pakistan doesn't want to go to that kind of extremism. The second is that they fought an asymmetric war against the United States of America and its allies during the war on terror. And they think that they can destabilize Pakistan through proxies and through asymmetric warfare, again, in the form of terrorist attacks or fanning secessionism or probably causing some sort of implosion within Pakistan by fanning hatred, by aligning with the extremist forces in Pakistan. So these are 2 factors which may be encouraging them to take this duplicitous stance, because on the one hand, when they
Also,
have
when we, I'm going to interject here. In terms of our talks, of course, they are underway. But there've also been rumors, there've also been reports of there being fractions within the Taliban. So in that sense, then, these talks, who will they be held with? And the success of them and the fragile nature of this ceasefire. How do you evaluate that situation?
I think that the Kandahar faction dominates, and they're the ones who are leading these policies against Pakistan right now, not the Kabul faction. And the talks would be meaningless if the Kandahar group is not there in Doha, because they're the ones who have to sign up on an agreement. Yes, it's no rumors. They have been factionalized, and pro-Pakistan elements in the cabinet and in the Afghan Taliban hierarchy, they've been marginalized, and India has penetrated into the other camp, and they're using this faction as a platform to launch all sorts of attacks against Pakistan. They are sowing seeds of discord between Pakistan and Afghanistan. And the irony is that the people of Pakistan and the people of Afghanistan have no enmity whatsoever. I mean, that remains our inalterable premise, that we as two peoples have no differences. It is the extremist version of a system dominated by Afghan Taliban, which is causing all these problems. We were very careful. I'll remind everybody, we were very careful in our diplomacy, in our pronouncements when we were dealing with Mullah Habatullah or the Kandahar faction. And we were very respectful to them in the beginning. And we gave them suggestion after suggestion that don't encourage or condone these attacks against Pakistani civilians and military personnel. And we thought that where there would be a breakthrough, and we were given assurances by the top leadership of Afghan Taliban, but those promises that they made were never honored. And that's why we have this chaotic situation right now.
But this time, when we look at the whole picture, when we look at a neighbor like India, agitating in a new form under this facade of the Taliban, I would say, we can put it that way also. Do you think that there are risk of adventurism and the fragile nature of the ceasefire at this time? And unless, Pakistan does what we did in Pahalgam, it remains fragile, the ceasefire as a whole.
You mean this ceasefire between Afghanistan and Pakistan?
Yes, the ceasefire between Afghanistan and Pakistan.
It is fragile, and the Afghan leadership is using jingoistic language against Pakistan. Pakistan has, in a manner of speaking, elaborated a new normal and enforced it. It is that if it is attacked on its soil from across Afghanistan, there would be retaliations. So this is something which has been established. But I think that India is trigger happy. It is using Afghanistan for now conventional and asymmetric, a combination of conventional and asymmetric attacks against Pakistan. At the same time, it is also preparing for another misadventure against Pakistan, another aggressive move against Pakistan along the international boundary or line of control, so we should be prepared, because India was humiliated during the May India-Pakistan war. Pakistan had an upper hand militarily, diplomatically, and in terms of...
used to be humiliated every month or so, by no less than the President of the US, which keeps on reminding them that yes, there were 7 planes that were shot down by Pakistan. Thank you so much, Sardar Sahab. Thank you for your very valuable time. Moving on, we've also been joined by Sardar, we've also been joined by Hussain Shaheed. on this issue. Thank you so much for joining us. Overall, as far as the situation at this time is concerned, in terms of this ceasefire, in terms of the talks that are underway, I'd like your opinion on this also. As far as the fractions within the Taliban are concerned, how important are they in leaving these talks unsuccessful for Pakistan and Afghanistan, and the ceasefire for it to continue?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Am I audible?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay. The question is that this entire phenomena in the name of negotiations that are going to start from tomorrow are very important. Many other old documents will also be pondered upon, especially Doha agreement between US and the Taliban regime at the moment. The reason is that they had committed that the land of Afghanistan will not be used by terrorist acts or non-state actors against any country, and I mean any country. So this means that Pakistan will definitely make it a point that TTP is there harbored by this regime. And of course, if they are using their land, that is making the relations troubled between Pakistan and Afghanistan. So in terms of the process, we anticipate, when I say we, the subject of international relations, that something very positive will come out, because legally speaking, technically speaking, as per international law, Taliban regime is at the moment they have to comply with the agreements that they have made till now, and unfortunately they are not doing that, and that is one of the big reasons that the skirmishes are taking place at border between Afghanistan and Pakistan.
When we talk about the agreements between Pakistan and Afghanistan, when we talk about the Doha Accord, of course, this has been happening for a long time, and Pakistan has been pointing it out. And, of course, wanting to talk, and we saw the effort that has been underway even months before, where, the diplomatic efforts were renewed, were in very, very enthusiastic diplomatic efforts. But, of course, that has now failed, and we know where to look with regard to the nexus with India at this time.
You see, it's not the first time so many visits had taken place, so many agreements had signed between the two governments, and all the time Taliban government had committed that they would like to get to take interest in economic relations, political stability, the border management, so that no non-state actor may cross the border or hurt each other. But the question is that after all, how long will Pakistan will just be waiting for their commitments translated into actions? Well, finally, what happened? Enough is enough. Pakistan had to have some kinetic operations inside Afghanistan. Moreover, why we say in English that you can change your friend, but you cannot change your neighbor. Being at the next door to Pakistan, and then having so deep, profound relations with India, which is arch rival of Pakistan, as an existential threat to Pakistan. And then sitting there and their foreign minister pronouncing statements against Pakistan, definitely it maligns the state's character and disturbs the relations between the two countries. This is what Taliban government at the moment.
I'm going to interject here. As far as, of course, you're right. Of course, it's not the relationship. Then, of course, is where we are at this time in terms of the ceasefire. And but thank you so much for being with us, and thank you for your very valuable time. In terms of Dr. Hamza, when we look at the Taliban, we look at the situation on the border, we know that we have been facilitating the Afghan government because of its civilians. In terms of needing Pakistan, in terms of their economic state, in terms of their ability at this time to function as a state, what is the situation at that time? Do they feel that they can take part in this adventurism, considering the fragile status of, state of their own economy, their own situation, their own people? How do you look at that?
That's an interesting question. And here I will like to take your attention to the statement given by the Foreign Minister of Afghanistan. And he said that all our neighbors do not have a problem with us. Pakistan has a problem. So it means the problem is with Pakistan. Now, this statement indicates that Afghanistani government, the Taliban leadership, is just getting funding from India. Therefore, they are not stopping the terroristic attacks to Pakistan. So his statement somewhere make it realize that, okay, Pakistan has a problem because you are not stopping the infiltration of terrorist groups into Pakistan because you are getting funding from India. And that clearly shows that their economic backbone is gone, and the support they are finding it out, no neighboring country is willing to give unless and until they don't clean up. They don't complete the promises of not allowing the terrorist attack. So yes, the question is that why India? Because that's the only funding agency they got now. And the India itself is in now psychological trauma. That's because of Pakistan's diplomatic steppings, and also whatever the humiliation India has faced in the war and afterwards.
So coming from the front when it's no longer an option, then this is the route.
That's
not that they weren't using it before. I mean, in that sense, it's not new. But of course, it's certainly new, and they fueled it. They've launched a new, more vigorous kind of effort.
Because the funding agency wants that, and that funders are Indians. It means the all regional powers, the other powers, whether we talk about Pakistan, China, Russia, the Central Asian republics, or Iran, they have simply refused that, okay, we want to help you, we want to strengthen your economy, we want to help you in any way you want, but there is a condition, and the condition is simple. Clean your territory. Just stop Daesh, the Khawariji fitna. Let's clean it up. Once it's done, we all are there to support, and that could be a better option for Taliban leadership, but they are not doing it. Mahrukh, if you just give me a second, you asked a question about the solidarity of political parties in Pakistan. Absolutely needed. Now here, the quite clear message
very quickly, we're running out of time.
The clear message should go there is that religious sentiment or political sentiment must not be misused when we are having a war against terror.
Right. Thank you so much. On that note, thank you so much for joining us today. Dr. Muhammad Ali Hamza, thank you for being with us. Tahir Khan, thank you for joining us. Dr.Syed Hussain, thank you for being with us today. Also, of course, Sardar Masood, thank you for joining us today. Overall, of course, the situation with Pakistan and Afghanistan still remains fragile, but of course, after the cabinet meeting, there is, of course, a renewed resolve. Pakistan stands firm in its commitment to ensure that it will not allow its territory to any other country's territory to be used to perpetrate terrorism within Pakistan. On the borders, our forces, our army remains alert, even as we, of course, start the talks tomorrow. And we hope that Afghanistan will realize that it is not able to have an enemy like Pakistan across the border. It is not going to be able to sustain this for any length of time against a country like Pakistan. On that note, thank you so much for joining us today on this.